I think in leadership and entrepreneurship, recognizing that all of us have likely little t or big T trauma, but it's the heights of our potential are dimmed if we're carrying it with us. So doing that deep work to work on yourselves and clearing that out, whether it's through prayer, meditation, psychedelics, somatic therapy, CBT therapy, meditation retreats, whatever it may be, whatever breath work, whatever may works for you, but do the work to study it, to learn it, to create awareness. The best-selling Harvard Business Review article is Peter Drucker's Managing Oneself. It's a classic, but at the end of the day, you look at people at the pinnacle of their potential. LeBron James in the sports world, or Tom Brady, or even, I don't know if we want to say Elon right now, but like Steve Jobs, they knew how to manage themselves to get the best from themselves. Something that we are becoming more aware of in today's day and age is mental health and trauma, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to work on releasing it. So it's great as you do so.
Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It is my pleasure to have Mike Zeller back with us. He was a guest back in 2018, and a lot has transpired since then, where we're going to get into some really profound, powerful stuff. Mike founded or partnered in 16 ventures in 7 different industries. His businesses collectively have done over $100 million in revenue, and he's had more than his fair share of wins and failures in life and business. He loves to teach and speak on finding your genius and rewiring yourself to release self-sabotage while claiming your personal power so that you show up fully in your business and at home. He's the CMO of Genfinity Precision Medicine, advanced biomarker and NAD optimization company that helps people slow the aging process at the cellular level and measurably track their progress. He survived losing over $1 million in about 18 months, his wife's 2.5-year deep battle with mental health, and is now guiding leaders, entrepreneurs, and investors through his powerful Rewired program, helping high achievers shed sabotaging beliefs, habits, and patterns to step into their genius and live in flow state where you're 500% more productive. Mike's mentored hundreds of entrepreneurs in 6 continents, now of all age ranges and experiences. He's also mentored some of Hollywood's top voiceover actresses, NFL athletes, real estate developers, and other peak performance leaders. He's the author of The Genius Within, Finding Your Natural Pathway to Impact, Fulfillment, and Wealth. Mike, it's so great to have you on the show.
Stephan, pleasure. And I realized how freaking long my bio is. I should have given you a shorter one.
No worries.
So thanks for reading that long.
Let's talk
long
about
sucker.
what the heck happened and losing $1 million and how that ended up being a gift.
It's what's our old mentor Tony Robbins say about pain? Pain is I think he calls it a gift from above or something along those lines. But basically went through a season where I had like 5 or 6 things, in entrepreneurship and business, places working out. And then my main cash cow business, my real estate business at the time, disintegrated. I had a real estate investment that went really bad, lost 250 grand on that. And that created just basically a perfect storm of implosion in a way that you don't really expect, but you get wiser from those implosions. And so I lost $1 million in about 12 to 18 months and had to reset everything ultimately. And then right after that, by the time I got my head above water, reasonably so, my wife got pregnant, and that began a 2.5-year depression battle and mental health battle. And she's a 3-time suicide survivor. So she got triggered by a lot of childhood trauma. And so then we're in the fight, a much deeper fight than losing $1 million. And so that was a brutal season, but learned a ton about trauma, mental health, and just how honestly fragile all of us are to some extent. So I have so much more empathy now.
Right. So what did you learn about trauma that you didn't already know that might be surprising for our listener?
Yeah, trauma. So I'm a master NLP practitioner, and I've done a lot of deep mindset work and help rewire a lot of people around their mindset. But one of the things that happens for someone that's truly severely trauma affected is those memories are almost stored in your body. That's why they call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where this thing happens and activates in a sensory way a non-conscious response. So my wife, for example, our daughter would cry, which is normal for a baby, would cry. And if she cried longer than 15 or 30 seconds, it would start triggering my wife's nervous system back to her traumatic childhood. And so for 2.5 years, and basically both in pregnancy was all traumatic for her. She had a really rough pregnancy, but also all these traumas and fears of like her sense of overwhelm. She was the oldest of 11 kids, very abusive upbringing. And there's all this pain that, we thought she had cleared, but honestly, it came roaring back. And so, we, like I had realized, oh, this is not as simple as just a positive mindset. This is like a deep nervous system reset that is needed. And yeah, we could have SSRIs, but if you look at the research, they help people temporarily and they help people cope, but they don't help people heal. And we were very interested in healing and trying a lot of different approaches, from neurofeedback, NAD/IV, which was very helpful for healing, somatic psychotherapy. But the biggest kicker was psychedelic assisted therapy, because her neuro wiring needed a massive reset, and we needed to flood her brain with neuroplasticity. And according to psychedelic research, when you're on a lot of these substances, the psychedelics, done safely and wisely in a safe container, but it basically doubles your neuroplasticity from anywhere from 2 to 14 days, which allows us to repattern and reprogram basically a lot of these subconscious triggers.
How did you discover it? How did it get implemented? Did you guys have to go out of the country to somewhere where it's psychedelics are considered legal? Or tell us more.
Good question. So I'll mention, she psychotherapy heavily influenced by Dr. Peter Levine's work, Healing Trauma, which is the first book I read on trauma. So he started that in January 2022, made a huge difference in knowing how to just manage and navigate. But then it just wasn't enough. She was still like aware in moving such deep work. And then we did neurofeedback. That seemed to help her anxiety. Her anxiety dropped. NAD gave her the mental energy and her physical energy and vitality back. But then in the fall of 2022, we realized, man, our daughter, she just keeps getting triggered into a cascading spiral of depression when our daughter cries, which is pretty normal for a toddler, as you well know. And so I started really realizing, oh, this is complex PTSD, because I listened to like 100 podcasts on mental health and trauma and read, a dozen books or so in a short time period. And then we found a therapist that's willing to, off the books, do a psychedelic assisted therapy session in the States. I won't say where, but that therapist was amazing. And it was a 5-hour therapy session, just as a framework. Tuesday, the day before we did the session, our daughter cried for like a couple minutes, and my wife then went into a depression spiral for the next 4 hours, literally crying on the basement steps for 2 hours, coming up basically in a depression funk for another 2 hours, and even a cloud the next day. Well, then the next day we do the session, and it's 5 hours long. She comes back home the Thursday. So one day after that session, our daughter has an 18-minute temper tantrum meltdown. Just ballistic, just insane. My wife is able to laugh. She has that cognitive disassociation. It doesn't trigger her nervous system. And I like to say it's not necessarily your fault, but it is your responsibility. And so your nervous system, her program from her childhood, she couldn't control that, but it was her responsibility and our responsibility to help her get it better, help it get reprogrammed. And since then, we've been able to start functioning normally again. There's still a little bit of PTSD we're clearing out. We're going to do another ketamine assisted this round, which is legal in Tennessee. So we're going to do that ketamine assisted therapy session. And I expect that complex PTSD is incurable according to APA. Well, I don't believe it. Based on my anecdotal evidence, depression, she claims she's cured of depression. I would say so too. and the PTSD, we're pretty darn close to having that 100% taken care of too.
Wow, amazing. And what was
Yeah.
the first psychedelic that
Psilocybin.
Got it.
Yeah, which should legalize statewide. I mean, across the federal government in the states by end of next year. This is the expectation.
Yeah. So when we're recording it now in late December, that would be end of 2024. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Where did NAD fit into the picture, and what is it for our listener who is not familiar with it?
Yeah. So NAD, I'm not going to say the long scientific name. It's nucleoanodide dinucleotide or something along those lines. I don't remember it's just a big long science name. But it's the core foundational molecule that's used in 500 cellular processes, but it also acts as a neurotransmitter. So basically everything your body does uses NAD as its primary fuel source. And why this is so important for mental health and peak performance. So, I'm always coming at the lens from peak performance and then recognizing that trauma can be a peak performance blocker. So your brain uses 3% of your body weight, but uses 20 to 25% of your body's energy. So if you are operating in a deficit, which if you are over the age of 30 in America, you are guaranteed almost, based on 20,000 NAD tests that we've done, very rarely is someone who is not an NAD boosting supplement in our NMN or our special blend that is arguably the most effective. Your NAD levels are deficient, so therefore your brain energy is going to be deficient because NAD is the primary fuel source. And it goes down as we age, like stem cells, like all the other things. That's why when we're 50, we typically don't have the vibrancy and the physical stamina that we had to run long distance, to jump high and far or whatever. And our muscle is harder as we age. Well, if you boost it back up, like I'm back at healthy levels of a 12-year-old. And last night I played over an hour of full court basketball, no pain, no inflammation, no real soreness. And I could have played another hour or two. I've played as many as 3 hours of full court basketball as a full. That in my 30s, that would have been really freaking hard. I would have had to take a nap, taken some ibuprofen. Now I don't need any of that. And I feel freaking great.
Yeah. By the way, I looked it up. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide.
I was close. I was almost got it. Literally, you take the product. I'm a big evangelist for it, but I don't always remember how to say the scientific name.
Yeah. Some people take NAD by IV.
Yeah.
And others will take some sort of supplement. How do you take it?
So I believe from the research, so the founder of the company that I'm CMO for, Dr. Jen Shea, he's one of the foremost experts in the world at NAD. He's also as a scientific researcher, like found the type 1 diabetes gene. So he's been studying human diseases for 40 years and longevity. But in his research, along with other research out there, NAD IV does not increase intracellular NAD, meaning the inside of your cell nuclei. NAD IV, the molecule is just too big, NAD, for it to get inside of your cell. But it does increase your cellular plasma. So that's why many people battling anxiety, other form, depression, addiction, it's very, very helpful for resetting your neurotransmitters and doing it in a really quick fashion, because you will notice the effects afterwards. And we initially only did NAD IV, but then as I learned more about how important it is to do the intracellular, so I take a little white powder from Genfinity. It's called a Vitality Boost. And I take it twice a day. And now my levels have basically tripled from where they started. And I don't need the IV anymore. I have the same effect without the IV for about 1/5 of the cost of what I was doing every month. So, and it's arguably more important for the intracellular, for your aging, to slow aging. If you look at the 13 hallmarks of aging, and everything from metabolic dysfunction, telomere shortening, a lot of other things are glycation, directly related to NAD deficiency.
And did you discover Genfinity and start taking their supplement, and then you became their CMO, or you took some other NAD supplement and then you ended up their CMO and then you started theirs? How did that work?
Good question. So I took 3 different products as a supplement before finding out about Genfinity. I was taking a brand called True Niagen, which did really well to, they're the most well known probably, where they opened up the marketplace. It's a good product. Then I took Novus Labs, which is another good product, well marketed, well branded, and they have a pure NMN that's quite good. And then I took also just a pure NAD supplement, which is totally worthless. I didn't know it at the time, but it doesn't really work because the molecule is too big to pass the gut barrier, cell barrier. And then I had an IV clinic, and we were focused on doing an NAD IV. And then a friend of mine told me about Genfinity's, how you could test before and after. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And they had the only NAD test on the market. And then I quickly called the company to learn more about it, and ended up talking to the founder. And he told me about their supplement. So I ordered a bunch of them, and I loved it. And our clients loved it. And when I ended up shutting the IV company down about 6 months later, I reached out and I was like, he's a scientist. And I was like, hey, you could use a little help with your marketing. And jumped right in, and he said, yes, we need some help. And so I jumped in, and we've grown tremendously since. And it's truly a great product. I bought $10,000 worth of it for my IV clinic before becoming the marketing director in CMO. So, I was already an evangelist for it beforehand because of how great it made people feel.
That's cool. That reminds me of that old Remington commercial.
Yeah,
Remember that guy? It's like, I love the product so much, I bought the company.
Exactly. Social proof.
Yeah. And so what would be a typical kind of investment in the Genfinity supplements instead of, because our typical listener is not going to want to spend $10,000. Not that they need to. That you bought that for your clinic, but like True Niagen is not inexpensive as far as supplements go. I'm curious what the end is for Genfinity.
Monthly supply, if you do the monthly subscription, is $118. So it's pretty equivalent to the other big brands out there: Elysium, True Niagen, Novus Labs, Do Not Age, etc. The main difference, though, that you'll see is most of the brands, True Niagen being one as well, and a lot of the others, and we've tested 20,000 people. So we've tested people on all the other brands and their supplements. Typically they'll even claim themselves, like I think Elysium says on their website, they improve NAD levels by 40%. Well, that's great. And so their products work. But what we typically see with our products is people improve their NAD levels anywhere from 200 to 400%. I can think of 4 cases right now of people I personally work with or am friends with that have taken the product and the test, and we've seen their levels zoom up. And I've personally fit where my energy, I notice an improvement with some of the other products, but I notice a massive improvement with ours in the energy, the stamina, the mental clarity, the metabolic function, where I've burned belly fat that I was carrying. Just got older and my metabolism wasn't as great, it felt like. Now my metabolism is like I'm a teenager again, and it feels freaking great. So
the kind of tests that show NAD levels intracellularly, how many are there? Is it just yours? If I were to go to a typical kind of holistic doctor or, I don't know, concierge medicine type establishment, would they be testing intracellular NAD?
So currently we're the only test on the market for NAD. So only test in the world that we know of. It probably won't be that way forever. I would imagine that in the next year or two, there's going to be a few other tests roll out. But Dr. Shea is a brilliant medical researcher and had developed advanced tests and biomarker tests for massive companies before creating Genfinity. So we've got some intellectual capital in the sense of innovation that very few companies have. We also test for cellular senescence, oxidative stress, both of which are key hallmarks of aging and no one else tests for in the world currently. And we test, frankly, some of the biggest names in both sports and health and wellness. I can't fully say all their names, but offline I can tell you. But
well, there's somebody who's going to be dropping a promotion, or not a promotional video, but they're going to be talking about Genfinity on their YouTube channel today. So by the time this airs, that'll be old news, but are you allowed to tell who that person is?
Yeah, he's a big men's health and wellness influencer and fashion. He's also in fashion. So his name's Jose Zuniga. Teaching Men's Fashion is his YouTube channel. But I think he's 37. We moved his NAD levels up on his intracellular from 32.1 to 83.9. So it was a 2 increase in 28 days, and he feels it. Like he's like, wow, I feel like I'm 16 again. And that's what we typically see is people are blown away with the results. Usually in 2 to 4 weeks is what we see the difference.
We'll include that video in the show notes for this episode. That's amazing.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So what else is of your biohacking stack for longevity and performance and being in the flow state and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Another big one, surprisingly, creatine. Because creatine, a little known fact about creatine is it acts as a battery pack for energy. So, especially mental energy. So, when you boost up with creatine, like in our Genfinity blend, one of the extra ingredients that we have that's not just NMN, but it's creatine, D-ribose, and niacinamide. Basically, that causes what's different about that versus NR or NMN is it causes the repair cycle of your NAD, the salvage pathway, to be boosted back up, and so that's why our levels are dramatically better than other companies, is because we also hit the salvage pathway versus pure NR, pure NMN just doesn't do that. But creatine is massive value add. I also started taking another product called Fatty 15, which is
I take that too. Yeah.
It's great. Good marketing, right? But good brand. I met the co-founder at this big A4M conference. I think that's a phenomenal product. MitoQ is another cool one for mitochondria. NAD, when you boost your NAD, because NAD is primary fuel source for mitochondria, I may not really need the MitoQ, but anything that optimizes mitochondria, I want to take as well. I take
Have you heard of MitoPure?
Yep, MitoPure is terrific too. So yeah, do you take that one?
No, I saw at the same conference I met the founder or co-founder of Fatty 15, which was the biohacking conference, Dave Asprey's biohacking conference this June, which would have been 2023 by the time this episode airs. That the MitoPure folks were speaking to, and I was really impressed with their stuff. But yeah, I ended up getting a subscription to Fatty 15. I forget what else I signed up for, but it's like you could spend thousands of dollars, just go to one of those biohacking conferences, and it's like going to the grocery store hungry.
Yeah, it's true. It's so tempting, and you're like, wow, this is so good, and you want to come home with a polar plunge, and you want to come home with a ozone spa and all the things. You're like,
all the things. Yeah.
But,
so what does MitoQ do?
It's another similar to like MitoPure, boost up your mitochondrial function. And a little known fact about mitochondria, though, the only thing that causes your mitochondria to duplicate is exercise. So it's hard for your mitochondria to be fully functioning in a healthy state without exercise too. So that's something to bear in mind. And that's from Dr. Robert Lustig's book, Metabolical, which is phenomenal. One of the top 3 health books I've read. And then I take 1,000 milligrams EPA fatty acids, which is phenomenal for brain health and mental health, according to Huberman. That is the equivalent of an SSRI for about 60% of the population from the research he's seen. And then what else? Perfect aminos, because most of us don't have sufficient levels of amino acids. And so that's perfect. It's from Body Health, really good blend. And a few other things, but those are the main things that I take on a pretty significant daily basis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned NMN. So I'll answer your question about Jack in a minute. But so NMN, which that stands for what? Actually, I'll tell you since
you might have it pulled up.
Even nicotinamide mononucleotide. Yeah.
Yes, as a little kid, I'll just tell you this: I had speech classes, and like when I was like 7, 8 years old, and those really big scientific words, even in high school and college, I knew what they were. I just had trouble saying them. It was like almost my brain would get like a little spun sideways. So I just have trouble remembering the giant scientific or the bigger scientific words. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what's that called? Performance anxiety, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
to give a
Yeah.
presentation or something, and I'm getting all nervous. Like, anytime a scientific word comes. So, what's the difference between NAD and NMN, and why both?
Well, so like if you look at the precursor cycle, so NR, actually, let's go all the way back to vitamin B3. Vitamin B3 in the cycle becomes, in many cases, NR. It doesn't always become NR, but then NR will become NMN, and NMN will become NAD once it's inside the cellular nuclei. So if you take the further back you go, the less likely it is to convert all the way to NAD. If I take NAD as a molecule orally, it's just not, it won't membrane. Your body actually has to break it down for it to get, so it almost has to take it apart before it goes into your cell nuclei. So that's why taking the NAD orally is a waste, but then N and R are usually pretty good products. Now, what we do differently is because the unique blend and the unique percentage or ratio of the blend, what we found in the research causes the repair cycle, which basically boost up your NAD levels, very intracellular NAD levels, much higher than the average product. So, like, what I would say for you is if you're True Niagen, then compare 2 weeks on Genfinity, the Vitality Boost, and you'll likely notice a night and day difference in terms of your energy and your mental clarity and your stamina. That you'll be like, oh, okay, this is really working.
All right, I'll give that a go. I'm a willing biohacker. I like to experiment. So, as you already know from a few minutes ago, I do take True Niagen daily. I take Fatty 15 daily. I actually take double the suggested amount of Fatty 15. I just got an intuitive sense to do that. I can't say I had any medical guidance to do that, but I also take Hypertest and Myodex, which are from Axis Labs. I've been taking that for well over a decade. Really boost testosterone levels, and I know the founder of Axis Lab, Chris Gatchis, and he actually was a guest, one of my very early guests on this podcast, like 2016 or 2015 even. And yeah, that's been a game changer because I have really high testosterone levels for my age and have had pretty much the last decade. What else do I take? I take the core. That's a secret weapon right there. When my wife and son are sick, I don't get sick, knock on wood, usually. So they don't take Epicor, although I want them to. But it's just it's a really great prebiotic that helps boost your immune system.
Yeah,
Epicor,
Epicure.
Epicor.
Cool.
Magnesium Breakthrough, which has 7 types of magnesium in
I
it.
take that too.
Oh, I take the spermidine.
I take spermidine too. Yeah, that's great.
And
I love that one as well.
if I had them all, like you got me on the spot here, so I don't have my my whole stack here in front of me. I probably take about 15 or 18 different supplements a day, but I don't talk about it that much, so it doesn't roll off the tongue. But I used to take more than double that, and through just my intuition and muscle testing, that I figured that I'm overdoing it and I don't need a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I dropped a lot of that. Oh, I take Beam Minerals, has a really great mineral combo of 2 different things. There's Micro Boost and the Electrolyze. Every day I take SIA Labs. Are you familiar with ASEA? So SIA, ASEA. So they it's a tastes kind of like, I don't know, soapy water. It's not exactly delicious, but it helps with redox cell signaling. And I know people have had huge breakthroughs from taking that. So yeah, those are just some examples of things I take.
I'm adding a couple of those
Oh,
to my
okay.
Amazon cart right now. So that sounds great. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Trust your judgment.
oh, okay.
You're a
Thank
savvy
you.
guy at this for sure.
Let me see if there's anything else that pops for me that would be good for you. Well, there's another prebiotic I take from Hyperbiotics. It's like a
Hmm.
green label powder I put in my smoothie. I think it's just called prebiotic. So I take that.
Yeah.
I take
Okay.
what's
Yeah,
that?
prebiotics are really good. I said prebiotics are
Yeah,
really good. They're underutilized by most people. Most people focus too much on probiotics when it's really
right,
prebiotics that we need
right.
more of.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so cool. Thanks for sharing and
All
for
right.
getting me to putting me on the spot
Yeah.
to share too. So, what would be the thing that you, looking back on all this, what would be the thing that pops for you as the biggest gift or lesson or epiphany from this whole journey of dealing with increasing your performance, your longevity and all that, and helping your wife with her health and her neuroplasticity and all that. What's something that just pops for you that you want to share?
First thing is that we all battle some level of some trauma that can be stuck in us. And to the level of stuck in us, it's literally like a bag of bricks that you're carrying around. And the metaphor I've used a lot too is like you don't even know what it means to feel lighter energetically. Like my wife and I, we both feel so much lighter that we've done some of this trauma clearing and deep work. And I got some PTSD from just that whole scenario that we battled. So, and it's hard to see the clarity of thought and the clarity of potential and the joy you can have when you've been carrying some stuff that you're just also comfortable with. Many of us go through life, their whole lives, just comfortable with this negative weight. And you can sometimes see it in people's lives where it's almost like a cloud has been hanging over them energetically or vibrationally, but they're supposed to be filled with light, right? And I see it at my retreats, my rewired retreats, where we do certain medicines and we do some NLP and some breath work and meditation, and people will literally enter the weekend feeling heavy and looking heavy, and then after the first night, it's like they got a sparkle in their eye. And by day 2 and day 3, it's like their whole face is shining. They're full of this vibrancy and this joy that they've maybe never even accessed before. And so when I look at some of these, let's call them consciousness expanding supplements and or plant medicines, the ability when they're safely used and guided and respected as the powerful tool that they are, they're neutral. When they are used as a beautiful, powerful tool, they literally help your brain tap into ranges and your nervous system. Ranges of possibility, especially on the higher level of joy and just shedding scarcity, shedding trauma, shedding wounds and stories and limiting beliefs. They help you tap into this higher state of self that you've maybe always known was there for you, but you had no idea how to get there. And for me personally, as a guy, I was emotionally cut off. I didn't know how to connect with my heart on an intimate level. And now it's like I might not have a super highway yet, like my wife has, but I have a 2-lane road now, and there's an exit ramp for me to get there. Versus before, it was like I was driving by Disney World, and I'm like, how is everybody's having fun over there? How do I get over there? But there's no exit ramp for me. And my wife was complaining for years. You're emotionally shut off. I can't connect with you emotionally. Now she can. And now it's a really beautiful season that if we didn't go that season and have to explore some of these, let's call them consciousness expanding supplements, I would have never accessed higher parts of myself.
Wow. Have you tried iboga?
I have not tried that yet. I hear it's pretty great though. I've tried basically done psilocybin, MDMA, sassafras, a little, and Kana is another one, which is you can buy as a supplement, and it's a mood elevating substance as well. And then 5-MeO, I've done that, and then I haven't done a full ayahuasca journey yet. We've had ayahuasca in some of the blends that I've taken, but that's next year. I'm gonna do some ayahuasca. So
How
I'm
about
gonna
bufu?
head down and purge whatever's there.
How about bufu? You know anything about
Yeah.
that?
No, I
No,
haven't.
I
Have you?
haven't.
Well, actually, no. In the 5-MeO, we
Oh, you
did
did do
Bufo
Bufo.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't like that. Was probably one of my least
No.
favorite ones. It's not bad, but I'm not yearning to do it again. So
So in answer to your question, I
yeah.
have done nothing.
Oh
I've done
yeah,
prayer.
yeah,
I've had
yeah.
psychedelic
Yes,
experiences from that.
I've done
Yeah.
a lot of prayer too. Yeah. Well, if it doesn't call you, then if you don't feel drawn to it,
Yeah.
no big deal, right? We were in a desperate situation, and this had the most promise, and sure enough, it delivered the results that
Yeah.
we had hoped for,
Amazing.
and then some.
Amazing. Do you do ice baths and infrareds and all that other biohacking stuff too?
Yeah, 2 or 3 times a month, I'll do a cold plunge. We have a membership. We do a clinic as well. Our hormones were both out of whack after that season, so I do cryotherapy, cold plunge, sauna, or infrared as well. And we have infrared devices at home, and then like a face mask and another tool. And then yeah, but I don't like doing it every day or 3 times a week like some people. I'll do it a couple times a month, 2 to 4 times a month typically.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah. Cold showers though every day since Tony Robbins days.
Nice.
So like I'm like 8 years into that.
Well, that
Yeah,
counts. That's pretty.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not just for the
yeah,
health; it's for your mindset, for your
yeah,
willingness to try things that are not easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Totally, exactly.
How about
Yeah.
nootropics? Anything?
Oh yeah, I love nootropics. So we use Genius brand. That's been amazing. That's you get it on Amazon, but it has a lot of powerful focusing supplements on that. That's been terrific. And I've tried a few other nootropics. A lot of them are great. So yeah, anytime I wrote my book as well on basically 30 days of nootropics and matcha tea every morning at about 4:30 or 5 a.m. So help me lock in and get focused.
That's cool. That's awesome. Did you? Well, we'll have to talk about kind of morning rituals that help you get into a flow state and a place of being able to do downloads and stuff. But a couple of nootropic type. I buy stuff from Tropics Depot, and so I'll buy powders that are mushroom powders like uh, chaga and red reishi and turkey tail. Not actual turkey tail; it's a turkey tail mushroom.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I'm
yeah, totally.
vegetarian, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those are just a few examples. Yeah. Anyways, so tell us more about your morning ritual and how you get into flow.
Yeah. So in the morning, especially when I'm in a book project or a highly creative project, I like to go to bed earlier. So I get up earlier before. For me, when the ladies in my household, my daughter and my wife are up, you don't get done until you get out the door. So, becomes a very distracting world. So, if I can get up at 5 a.m., a couple hours before they get up, then I'll usually have about 90 minutes of good flow state. What I'll do to activate it, and so you think of how do I prime your body, like and the psychology of flow, you're 500% more productive in flow state, and this is where you activate also all 6 neurochemical cocktail releases: norepinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, a few others. I can't remember all 6 of them right off the cuff, but it triggers all 6 of those. So it basically elevates your state of happiness and your state of connection. Now, to activate flow, you also have to be 10% beyond your comfort zone. So it has to be challenging just enough, not too challenging where it creates a paralysis, but also not too easy where you're just bored. And so that's why like big, heli skiers and big wave surfers, man, they're not going from 20-foot wave to 100-foot wave. They're going from a 20-foot wave to a 30-foot.
So you're not suggesting heli skiing for your first time skiing, in other words.
Exactly. So, but you need enough of a challenge that you're confident enough that you can do it, but you also have to pay attention or you'll mess it up, right? So, but I'll start that day off like with some breath work and a little bit of meditation, some movement, water, my vitality boost for NAD optimization because that kind of stimulates your NAD production right away in the morning. And if I'm getting up early to focus, then I'm also probably going to do some nootropics. And I'll jump right in and start on the most valuable part of the day. For me, it might be writing or a marketing project, or other business project. And that's, you have to look at also your peak emotional energy. You have 3 to 4 hours a day. So if I utilize those 3 to 4 hours of peak emotional energy on my most valuable activities, then I'm going to get the biggest lever. And so that's where we want to be with that. So yeah, that's how I start my day, and then get my daughter up at about 7:15, 7:30, and she gets a smoothie every day with pumpkin seeds and granola and superfoods, and and I make a mushroom coffee. So she had all the turkey tail and all that stuff. So
All right. Do you get brand? Oh gosh, what's it called?
I use Rise currently. That's the coffee one that we get,
Okay.
and then Ujito for my matcha. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a brand that's pretty popular. I know that
yeah.
Luke Story would get his
Oh yeah.
podcast sponsored by that brand. Gosh, what's it called? It's not Mudwater.
Oh yeah, I know Mudwater too. Yeah, yeah. I know there's a few different ones. I can't remember right
Four
off of you,
Sig,
but
that's what
yeah,
it
there's
is.
Four Sigmatic. Yeah, yeah, they're great. Yeah, good product too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What about you? What do you do to get into flow?
What's that? What do I do to get into flow? I
Wh-
pray. I ask God to
Yeah,
put me in a flow state. I know that there's
good.
like 26 different flow triggers or whatever, according to Stephen Kotler
Yeah,
and all that. And I realized that I can just pray for it. One time I was doing the 20 some days of tracking my blood glucose levels, and my so had the device on my back of my arm, right? The continuous glucose monitor. And it was late. I was tired, and my blood sugar level had crashed. It was well into the red. So I was like, oh, I really don't have to get up and get and like, eat something or drink something. Please God, just like correct it for me. And then I fell back asleep. And guess what happened when I checked the monitor in the morning? Yep, sure enough, it was up into the black.
yeah. Glucose
Yeah.
monitors are great.
It's not just
Yeah,
mind over matter. It's like miracles are are what you're meant to
yeah.
experience. So if you just
Yeah.
believe in have faith God
Mm-hmm.
and how this reality is driven by him and or her, however you want to
Yeah.
refer to your higher power, but the idea of just allowing God to override. It's like a
Yeah.
system override
Exactly.
because physics is subservient
Yeah.
to the creator,
Yeah.
obviously. So it might not make sense for a diehard atheist to
Yeah.
operate in this way, but
Yeah.
it
Exactly.
works. Can't deny the results. Like I looked at the gray morning on my
Mm-hmm.
tracking, and it jumped right into
Amazing.
the black. It's like I
Yeah.
didn't do anything, just prayed.
That's crazy.
Didn't even have a glass of water. Like, not that that would do any either, because there's no sugar. But that was the point for me. Like, okay, I'm underutilizing the
There you
power of
go.
prayer.
Great point.
Yeah. No, we're out of time. This has been a great exploration of incredible highs and lows in your journey. Thank you for sharing all this. If you wanted to share one last nugget of wisdom before we go, something that we haven't talked about, what would it be?
I think in leadership and entrepreneurship, recognizing that we have all of us likely little T or big T trauma, but it's the heights of our potential are dimmed if we're carrying it with us. So doing that deep work to work on yourselves and clearing that out, whether it's through prayer, meditation, of psychedelics, somatic therapy, CBT therapy, meditation retreats, whatever it may be, whatever breath work, whatever may works for you, but do the work to study it, to learn it, to create awareness. The best-selling business review article is Peter Drucker's "Managing Oneself." It's a classic, but at the end of the day, you look at people at the pinnacle of their potential. LeBron James in the sports world, or Tom Brady, or the business world, even, I don't know if we want to say Elon right now, but like Steve Jobs, back in the day, man, they knew how to manage themselves to get the best from themselves. And something that we're becoming more aware of in today's day and age is mental health and trauma. And it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to work on releasing it, so that you can be at your highest and best self. And it feels great as you do so.
Yeah, for somebody who's unfamiliar with breath work and the power of it, you can release a lot of DMT just through doing intentional breath work exercises. I have a whole episode talking about this with Curtis Thomas, but do you have a particular modality of breath work that you recommend?
Yeah, I like Dr. Andrew Will's 4-4-4 method. It's just 4 breaths in, or 4 seconds, basically a 4-second box of breathe in, hold
Box
it,
breathing.
release, box breathing. But also there's, the yogonic, like fast breath, dragon breath, as they call it. That's really cool. There's some other, Wim Hof obviously has some great, I've done a bunch of them, and I found different purposes and experiences with all of them, and they all have their different effect. And a longer breath work session, whether it's 50 minutes, can give you almost a psychedelic and a euphoric experience.
I've had those kind of experiences from breath work.
Yeah, no doubt. It's crazy.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. Well, Mike, this was awesome. If our listener is intrigued to work with you with your Rewired retreats, to read your book, to purchase the test kit from Genfinity, take the supplements from there, any of that stuff, where do we send them?
Yeah, so the first thing for Rewired, and just going through a process to guide yourself to rewire your subconscious, neurorewiring.com. And I give 14 steps, or 14 keys or tools to use to rewire in your subconscious. So that's a really powerful asset. Plus you get a really powerful email sequence with some of the best videos, trainings, and opportunities around that. Then Genfinity is just JINFINITI.com. And just use the code WELCOME20, and that'll give you 20% off your first order. And then MikeZeller.com, and then GeniusWithinBook.com as well for grab a free copy of my book. Just cover basically the shipping and handling of the book.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thanks for having me on.
This was awesome.
Always great connecting, Stephan.
It is. You're a force for good in the world. Thank you for being you.
Likewise. You too, my friend.
All right. And thank you, listener. You too are also a force for good in the world. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.